Yeah, Saudi Arabia took a massive position in SLV. Purchase was large enough whereby they could demand physical delivery. This is a privilege that retail investors lack. We cannot take possession of SLV. You have to have a massive, 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 massive position. Yeah, Saudi Arabia took a massive position in SLV,
Okay.
and it's too bad that they bought it in SLV and not the real thing. But the one part that I took away was that the purchase was large enough whereby they could demand physical delivery. This is a privilege that retail investors lack. We cannot take possession of SLV. You have to have a massive, 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 massive position in it in order, I think they call it a basket, in order to take physical possession, which is a big deal. But it's a bigger pattern, Jared, of central banks and sovereign wealth funds like India, like China, like Russia, who have publicly said we are accumulating silver either under the pretense of industrial applications, or in the case of Russia, from a strategic stockpile standpoint, which is very unusual. The rumors are, excuse me, India's bought, I don't know, 800-900 million ounces in the last 5-6 years. China, as we've talked about ad nauseum, flies around the world
Yep.
buying doré concentrate from South America and Latin America and Mexico, pulling it out of the ground, as Vince Lansing says, even before it's called silver. um, so, and now you see Saudi Arabia doing it. Well, and let's not forget, Saudi Arabia was one of the 5 charter members, not the original developers, but the 5th member, the next one to sign on to the Bridge. They have been admitted into BRICS. They haven't fully done it. They have applied to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. You know, this is a country where they're now building a vault from the Shanghai Metals Exchange in Saudi Arabia. This is a country that by its actions are de-dollarizing and moving away from Western influence. And it's funny, I used to always say with Rick Rule, you know, less than 0.5% of the public owns gold. And I would say from Joe and Jane's six-pack up to the Harvard Endowment Fund. Well, lo and behold, the Harvard Endowment Fund just bought $101.5 million worth of gold the other day. So you have big, big money, whether it be sovereign wealth funds, the Saudi Arabian government, the Harvard Endowment Fund, David Bateman, a billionaire, who just came out and bought, I don't know how much he bought. I don't know if it was $1 billion worth or hundreds of millions, but he bought a whole bunch of silver, took possession of it. He came out with a tweet that I found it was interesting. He said, if just 10% of the world's gold buying shifts to silver, it will eat up every single ounce that is mined every year. And I saw Jake's Custom Part, who I love, Jake, in there say that Vince Lansing said 80% of the gold that was purchased was not reported to the IMF. Well, I completely agree with that. So I would think that the 100 billion that we think has come into COMEX is probably a whole hell of a lot more that's coming in and through other channels directly into JP Morgan vaults or through proxy banks or whatever, sovereign wealth funds, or through the Exchange Stabilization Fund run by the Treasury Department under the auspice of national security. There is a race globally right now for the possession of commodities, and it doesn't make sense why anyone thinks that the IMF should be told all of it. It only weakens your position if they really knew how much you valued it and how much you were accumulating it. And quite frankly, after what the IMF or the BIS pulled against the BRICS with Enbridge at the 12th hour, the IMF and the BIS are Western institutions. I wouldn't tell them either. So I think that this is something that is happening and accelerating. And I think it will get to the point where it will start to dramatically affect prices. They don't want it to move up straight up because it prohibits them from accumulating as much as they would like, but gets to a point where if one of these short positions breaks rank and tries to cover one of these big short positions, which you could argue that they are starting to cover. They've covered a lot with the commercial banks recently, but if one breaks ranks and says, I'm out of this game, it's too dangerous, it's an existential threat, the whole thing goes pear-shaped. Manipulations always end badly, and you can only manipulate a market for an overextended period of time by pushing it in the direction that it is going. But when the whole world is pushing back against your manipulation, you run the risk of being run over. And I think that's something that needs to be certainly understood by these banks, and I'm sure some of them do. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think we are on the cusp of some large appreciations price wise in gold and silver, whether it be through revaluation or whether it be through something that happens in the economy. There's values everywhere. Now, why would I tell them to do this? Because the biggest money in the world is standing for delivery at a level no one has ever seen. This will be the precursor. The big money is always miles ahead of you and me. Always.
Yeah.
During COVID, when everyone was freaking out, I went and bought everything I could, everything, and went deep into debt to do it. And I'll do it again because I see things changing, right? I hedge it all, so I'm not exposed to the metal price and the premiums. What premiums? I am not exposed. I'll buy as much as I possibly can. So when it does change, and it will, every other dealer is going to, just like that, be sold out of product. And they're not going to get any more because everything comes, most of it, from across the Atlantic. Yeah, you got the US and the Canadian Mint and a handful of refineries here, but that's it. Mexico doesn't sell anything. And so you talk about all the other avenues for metals, the London Metals Exchange, stuff comes out of Zurich. You got the mint in the UK and Austria and Australia, South Africa. None of that stuff's going to come over here quickly if the shit really hits the fan. And so I think what is an opportunity right now, it's a contrarian indicator. Once again, the most well-informed money in the world is standing for delivery in 100-ounce and kilo gold bars and 1,000-ounce silver bars. Yet the public here, which has zero exposure to precious metals, the biggest money in the world, is all in and taking delivery here to a level no one's ever seen. It's the opposite in the equity market. They're all leaving as the public is rushing in on margin and leverage. So, what could possibly go wrong? I would just simply say the reason most people don't succeed in investing is that they don't have the courage to do what I'm doing right now. I'm not saying it's smart, maybe it's stupidity, but I'm going out and buying everything I possibly can for my business right now at stupid prices because the biggest money in the world is showing me that these people don't do this kind of shit for nothing. And this is why you don't hear a word of it by the mainstream, because the mainstream is controlled by the people that are probably behind all of this. And it's way up. They're not telling you what's really important, but the biggest money in the world does not go to, buy 100 billion worth of gold that's come into this country and do it just for shits and giggles. They know something's coming because they're closest to the information. And if that is true, that 100 billion that we know of, well, it's a lot more if Vince is right, because it's not being reported. It's not coming into the COMEX. It's going directly into vaults, private vaults that have no reporting requirements to the IMF. And this happens. And I think he's probably right for sure. Platinum, the U.S. Mint hasn't made any Eagles in at least 3 years, to my knowledge. I don't think they'll make any next year either. Gold, to me, there are values that I've never seen before in this market, like in certified numismatic coins, which you never hear me talking about. I used to know that stuff better than anyone. I've been doing this longer than anyone. I've been doing this since I was 19, and I'm 55 as of a few days ago. And I started this company with my dad when I was 19 years old. And no one bought bullion back then. Everyone bought numismatics because with $400 gold, an eagle might have been 4.25, and a 63 grade St. Gaudens 450. But on a percentage basis, that's still 5-6%. Well, right now, they are as attractively priced as I've seen my whole career in terms of relationship to gold bullion. Huge value in low grade certified. Thank you. Low grade certified $20 and $10 gold pieces. The backdate American Eagles, amazing value. Buffaloes have not come down, and for whatever reason, don't know why, but the backdate Eagles, a lot of companies out there will try and sell you gold Eagles that are not 2025 and charge you more for them because they say they're special. No, I don't. I sell them for less. And they're just a much better value. In 5 months, 2025s will be backdates. So amazing value. And the demand for large gold purchases has been really strong, like 7-figure orders. But the person spending, $3, $4, $5,000 a week or per transaction rather, It isn't there right now. In silver, the silver eagles have finally come down to a level that I'm happy to sell them at. The pre 65 silver, we were selling it at spot for a while. Now it's a little bit more, but point is that this pre 65 silver was the second most highest premiumed item for 4 years during the pandemic, from 2020 to 2024. I would have paid the public north of $12 over spot for it per ounce, and now you're able to buy it at barely over spot. There's amazing values out there as the public is blissfully walking into the pen with the herd, into the equity market with the highest degree of leverage, the highest participation in the pen, the highest degree of leverage and option exposure ever, as the insiders are going the other way and buying and taking delivery of commodities like gold and silver. There's amazing values. From a contrarian indicator standpoint, it's as good as anything I've ever seen. Take it for what it's worth. Yeah, I own a metals company. Yeah, I'm trying to drive business to my company, but I'm also honest. And I'll say it again. Being honest and trying to do the right thing does not have to be mutually exclusive with running a good business. It just doesn't. So, it's whether you buy it from Miles Franklin, SD Bullion, JM Bullion, Money Metals Exchange, AppMex, it doesn't matter. They're all good companies. We're all good companies, but buy it. This is an opportunity of a generation. The big money is telling you where they're going with it. Whatever you do, get out of dollars. You do not want to keep your wealth in dollars. You're destined to go broke. And for the first time, maybe in my career, where truly, if you are not a contrarian, you're going to be a victim, I believe, because we are on the cusp of a new monetary system. It's happening. I could argue with the passage of the Genius Act, that is a new monetary system, one where demand for the US Treasury is no longer organic but synthetic. And this is where things begin to get very interesting. What happens next? And if I'm right and they revalue gold to devalue the dollar to bring back manufacturing, the absolute worst place you can be would be to have most of your wealth in dollar-based assets.